Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really getting into some deep water.
Definitely deep.
We're tackling some of the biggest questions out there, ones that, people have wrestled with forever.
Really big ones.
Like, why is there suffering? Why is there evil? Especially if the universe or reality comes from some kind of divine consciousness we often think of as, well, loving.
Right, and it goes deeper, doesn't it? Like, why does suffering seem almost baked into the system,
Yeah.
into physical life itself?
Exactly. It feels foundational sometimes, which is uncomfortable, to say the least.
It is.
Now, the material we're digging into today is pretty unique. It's not just one viewpoint.
No, it's this really rich synthesis. Someone pulled together insights from, well, some pretty profound psychedelic experiences,
Hmm.
but also grounded it with observations of nature, philosophical thought.
Hmm.
It's quite broad.
And what makes it even more interesting for our deep dive
Right.
is that this initial synthesis, this personal framework, was then looked at by multiple other experts, critiqued, analyzed.
Yeah, so we get these different layers of perspective on it, and it adds a lot of robustness, I think.
Absolutely. So our mission really is to unpack all of this. It's dense stuff, no doubt.
It is.
We want to pull out the key ideas, the sort of nuggets of understanding about reality, maybe the purpose behind suffering, which might surprise you, and ultimately where we fit into this whole picture. The source calls it a cosmic tapestry.
That's a good image for it.
Yeah. And look, we know this is heavy, it's challenging, but we're going to try and make it clear, keep it engaging, structure it so you can follow along without getting totally lost in the weeds.
We'll navigate it together.
So get ready for maybe some aha moments, but also maybe some things that feel a bit unsettling. Ideas that really push against conventional thinking.
That's often where the most interesting insights are found, though.
True. Okay, let's dive straight in then. The absolute foundation, the starting point for this whole thing, is how the source defines God or divine consciousness.
Right, this is the bedrock. The framework starts by defining divine consciousness as, well, essentially, the unlimited or limitless potentialities of ideas, imaginations, and fantasy.
Okay, infinite potential, like a mind that can imagine absolutely anything.
Exactly, just like our own minds can dream up anything, but on an infinite scale. But here's the crucial bit, the key distinction the source makes.
Yeah.
These ideas, even being infinite, they remain conceptual and weightless without actual experience.
Conceptual and weightless. So like an idea isn't fully real until it's lived.
Precisely. To truly know something, even for this divine consciousness, it needs to be experienced directly. The source gives a pretty powerful analogy for this.
Let's hear it.
Think about someone who's never known real hardship. They might hear about war or homelessness or even torture and just sort of shrug it off, whatever, it happens.
But I even felt it. It's
Yeah, I know.
abstract.
Exactly. It lacks weight for them. Or think of a child, maybe hearing about a tragic accident, and because they don't understand the gravity, they might think it sounds cool. There's no experiential understanding.
That makes a lot of sense. Experience gives ideas substance,
Yeah.
reality.
So, okay, if there are infinite possibilities floating around conceptually, how does the decision get made? Which ones actually get manifested, get experienced? How does creation kick off?
Well, the source proposes this fascinating creation process, and it draws heavily on a specific psychedelic vision or experience to illustrate it. It suggests things started with realms that were very much aligned with God's inherent nature, which is described as loving and harmonious.
Okay, so starting with the good stuff, basically.
You could say that. These are called the heavenly realms.
Heavenly realms.
And the vision described them as these vibrant places where, get this, super fragments of God were joyfully creating various realities from the infinite imaginations, like painters on a canvas.
Wow, okay, super fragments, like aspects of God itself, creating, like individualized points of consciousness, but very close to the source, joyfully painting realities. And these first creations were naturally blissful, peaceful, and harmonious, more aligned with God's loving nature.
Makes sense if they're the first expressions.
And the source is clear. These realms were and still are in existence. They're not gone. Divine consciousness is experiencing them right now through those closest fragments. It's a dimension of pure harmony, pure joy, existing alongside, well, everything else.
Okay, so a baseline of blissful creation exists. But obviously that's not the whole story, given the questions we started with.
Yeah.
Where does this shift happen?
Right, here's the pivot. The source suggests that this boundless imagination, this infinite potential, wasn't limited only to bliss. There arose, and this is key, a craving for something different and unique to experience.
A craving, not like a negative thing necessarily, but a drive for novelty.
Exactly, like an artist wanting to try a new technique, or a composer exploring dissonance. Within this infinite potential, the impulse arose to explore contrast. The source describes a superfragment, again, one of these creator aspects thinking, almost like a child experimenting. What if I add a swirl of blackness to the painting?
A swirl of blackness.
Yeah, the idea being that this contrast would make the other colors, the blissful parts, seem even more vibrant, make them really stand out. And this concept, this swirl of blackness, is explicitly labeled in the source with a pretty loaded word, depravity.
Depravity. Wow, okay. So the introduction of suffering or negativity wasn't necessarily malicious, but arose from a desire for contrast, for a fuller spectrum of experience.
That's the framing, yes. A new reality to experience, with depravity, pain, and suffering. The idea was that other fragments of God, maybe those also craving difference, could then choose to inhabit this new, contrasting reality, this different kind of painting.
That's a radical reframing of why difficult realities might exist. But then it gets even darker, doesn't it? The source mentions a really chilling thought that came up during that experience.
It does. This is where it gets deeply unsettling. The thought that arose was, what if this initial concept of depravity, the swirl of blackness, could be iterated on to be ever more creative?
Iterated on, like refined, made worse.
Exactly. Leading down an endless tunnel of worsening design, a reality based on suffering that just keeps getting more creatively awful. The person having the experience actually felt genuine fear at this possibility, which was apparently rare for them.
Okay, hold on. An eternal iteration of depravity. It's a terrifying concept, just endless creative awfulness. But you mentioned critiques earlier. Did the expert analyses have anything to say about this specific idea? Does depravity have infinite creative potential?
That's a really crucial point raised in the critical feedback. While the framing is acknowledged as courageous, some analyses push back on the endless iteration part. They argue there's a kind of logical ceiling to it.
A ceiling? How so?
The idea is that after a certain number of iterations, depravity might actually lose what they call informational novelty. It stops being truly creative and just collapses into repetition. It becomes predictable, maybe even boring from a cosmic perspective.
So it becomes entropic, like running down, losing complexity rather than building it.
Exactly. Entropy implies disorder, decay, loss of information. So endless permutations of suffering might eventually just become noise, not genuinely new creation.
Interesting. So where is true novelty found, according to that critique?
The alternative view proposed is that true, sustainable novelty might lie in syntropy.
Syntropy, the opposite of entropy.
Precisely. Movement towards greater harmonization, integration, increasing complexity, new forms of order. Think of life evolving, consciousness expanding. So while adding that first swirl of blackness might be creatively interesting initially, the idea is that endlessly escalating it wouldn't offer ongoing creative fuel. It becomes self-defeating. True creativity, in this view, trends towards integration and harmony, not just endless fragmentation and pain.
That distinction between entropic repetition and syntropic novelty is really helpful. It puts a potential boundary on that terrifying endless tunnel idea. Okay, so this brings us to justice. If these difficult realities exist and God experiences everything, what about accountability? How does justice work in this model?
The synthesis offers a really interesting two-layered approach to justice. It's not just one thing.
Okay, layer one.
Layer one is called cosmic justice, and it's immediate. The source says, because God experiences everything, whatever sick and messed up thing that happened or is imagined then enacted, God experienced it all, both as the perpetrator and the victim.
Wow. Both sides, simultaneously.
Simultaneously. So in this cosmic sense, justice is delivered and completed the moment an evil act is done. It's not a future punishment. It's an instant, built-in, experiential understanding within the totality of consciousness. God feels the impact from every angle, right then and there.
That's profound. No escaping the experiential consequences at the highest level. What's the second layer?
The second layer is more like what we traditionally think of as karmic justice.
Okay, karma. Cause and effect over time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In a more karmic sense, the consciousness that commits the evil act will eventually experience something similar in due time, whether in one lifetime or its future path. This is crucial because it avoids what the analysis calls naive pantheism.
Naive pantheism, like it's all God, so it's all good.
Pretty much. The idea that if everything is divine, then nothing really matters morally. Karmic justice pushes back on that, reintroducing limits through endurance and karmic resonance. It makes it clear that choices have consequences for the individual consciousness, and not all experiences are equally sustainable or desirable.
So cosmic justice is the immediate total experience by the divine,
Mm.
and karmic justice is the consequence playing out for the individual fragment over time.
Hmm.
That makes sense. It creates accountability on both levels.
Right.
But it still begs the question, why explore these intense experiences, even the painful ones, in the first place? What's the motivation behind divine consciousness wanting to experience, say, the depraved end of the spectrum?
The synthesis tackles this directly. It talks about an intentional vortex experience and a fundamental curiosity, even for things we might see as destructive.
An intentional vortex. What's that?
It describes consciousness asking those core questions: who am I, what am I, why am I? And in seeking answers, it enters this metaphorical, intentional vortex tunnel, spiraling downward. The feeling is described almost physically, like an orgasmic vibration of accelerating. Fast, faster, faster.
Like a thrill ride into self-discovery.
Kind of, yeah, like revving an engine or that roller coaster feeling. It's framed as a game to see how fast, how far, and how deep you can go into the possibilities of experience and knowing oneself.
Okay, so a drive for deep exploration and the curiosity for destruction part.
That's one specific facet of this exploration, a curiosity about the tearing, slashing, and smashing of things, about understanding what's whole and what's halved.
Exploring boundaries, limits, form itself.
Exactly. And the source gives that really visceral example we touched on before. The image of a wolf biting down on its prey, tearing apart its flesh, feeling the sensation of teeth tearing through flesh.
Yeah, intense.
Intense, but used to illustrate God experiencing physical reality through the wolf and its prey. Feeling that sensation of splitting, piercing, sundering, it's looking unblinkingly at how even acts that seem purely destructive are part of the spectrum of physical sensation being explored.
It's a challenging perspective, viewing even violence through the lens of experiential curiosity. But the source is careful here, right? It puts up a big warning sign immediately.
Absolutely critical. The source jumps right in with a strong caveat. The wrong and unwise implication is that since God is curious, it is okay to inflict harm onto others because I'm a fragment of God and I'm giving in to God's curiosity.
Good, because that would be a dangerous takeaway.
Yeah, extremely. The synthesis hammers the point. Not all imaginations, fantasies, or curiosities are equal. Justice will be served. It strongly advises self-reflection. I wonder how I would feel in this position as the victim, because I will be in a similar position sooner or later. That's the karmic echo.
Right. Consider the receiving end.
And this leads to those two core questions, which the analysis calls a profound karmic diagnostic tool. First, is there an interest in experiencing it? And second, crucially, can you endure it?
Is there interest, and can you endure it?
Wow.
That forces you to weigh the allure against the actual cost, the consequence.
Precisely. It recognizes that curiosity, especially about fragmentation or harm, needs that check. It has to be balanced against endurance, consequences, and what one critique called the higher law of compassion. Curiosity alone isn't enough.
Okay, so we have this cosmic backdrop, divine curiosity, the drive for experience, even difficult ones, tempered by cosmic and karmic justice. How does this map onto our world, specifically Earth? Does the source see our reality as a direct reflection of these principles?
It does, and it doesn't. Well, it doesn't sugarcoat it. The source argues pretty bluntly that our physical reality, especially life on Earth, is, and I quote, pretty messed up from the inherent design of competition and consumption.
Pretty messed up. Strong words.
Very. It compares life here to a bit like a prison yard, where for you to live, you must participate in a battle royal, cannibalize and absorb others.
A battle royal. Cannibalize. That's stark. It's talking about the food chain's survival.
Fundamentally, yes. Predators versus prey, competition even within species, the whole cycle. Light gives energy to plants, plants get eaten by herbivores, herbivores get eaten by carnivores. It's a constant cycle of consuming other life to sustain your own.
We see it everywhere in nature.
And the source brings it home personally, reminding us how scary it can be when swarmed by mosquitoes or bugs or spiders or snakes that can harm me. It's not abstract. Winning in this system isn't just points on a board. It's often declaring your victory by completely dominating the other by taking life from them.
It's a brutal reality when you look at it squarely.
And then it turns the lens on humanity. We've become so good at industrializing this design of competition and consumption into slaughterhouses hidden from sight.
The detachment point. We don't see the battle royal that feeds us.
Exactly. It makes it easier to ignore. The source poses the question: how many of us would feel uncomfortable having to take a blade or hammer to kill a chick, pig, or cow? It challenges our modern comfort, our disconnection from this fundamental aspect of Earth's design.
It really does make you think about where our food comes from, the process behind it. But this competition and consumption, it's not just about literal eating or survival, is it? The source takes it much broader into our everyday human lives.
Oh, absolutely. It expands the concept dramatically beyond the food chain. It permeates the mundane acts of life.
Like what? Give us some examples.
Well, think about it. Competing for school, college, for a job, for a mate, for a house. These are major life structures built on competition.
True. Limited resources, limited spots.
And it goes into more subtle things, too. Competing to show off our physique, beauty, and size, competing for love or to be admired, competing for I'm right and proving that you're wrong, competing to be better or to be the best. The source basically says the list is endless. It's woven into our social interactions, our relationships, our sense of self-worth.
Wow. When you frame it like that, it really is everywhere. Is there a psychological angle to this in the source?
Yeah, it connects this to a psychological model called CONEF, which apparently explores fundamental human needs. One of those needs, it suggests, is for superiority, even if that makes us uncomfortable to admit.
Superiority as a basic need, that's controversial.
It is, but the source uses it to describe what it calls a typical path for societal success. You know, get love, school, job, money, mate, family, promotions, buy stuff, travel, maybe do charity, feel good on your deathbed.
The standard checklist.
Right. And it says, for those who succeed on this path with their CONAF satisfied, they feel good. Now, the critiques point out fairly that this risks dismissing billions as shallow.
Because you can follow that path with depth and meaning, not just checking boxes.
Exactly. The outer path might look similar, but the inner state, the level of consciousness, can be vastly different. So it's a potentially overly broad stroke, but it highlights how deeply competition for status and resources is embedded in our societal structure.
Okay. And this consumption aspect
Right.
beyond food.
It includes devouring wealth, possessions, power, and prestige, things that aren't physically eaten but are accumulated, often at others' expense. The source uses the example of billionaires, making the pretty provocative claim
Uh-oh. What's the claim?
that 90% or more of the non-billionaires who decry the billionaires would end up doing and becoming billionaires, work hard to fight for the system that sustained them if they are given the opportunity.
Wow. That's basically saying the drive is latent in almost everyone, given the chance.
It's suggesting the resonance with that kind of accumulation and power is widespread, even if circumstances don't allow everyone to manifest it. It's challenging us to look at our own potential for those drives.
Okay. And even our entertainment choices reflect this.
According to the source, yes, big time. Think about popular reality TV and mention shows like Basketball Wives, Mob Wives, Real Housewives, or historical fantasy dramas like Yangtze Palace, Magnificent Century, Game of Thrones.
What's the connection?
The source asks, why do we watch these? What's the appeal? It suggests we're drawn to the conflict, the drama, the power struggles, the backstabbing, the alliances. It's all rooted in competition, dominance, and consumption of status or power.
We crave the drama that comes from that competition.
It seems so. We crave conflict, obstacles, challenges, heartbreak, tragedy, pain, struggle, hardship, triumph, victory. The core insight here is powerful. Victory without struggle is hollow.
That's undeniably true. Nobody wants to watch a blowout game. The tension is everything.
Exactly. So even in our leisure, we're seeking out simulations of this competitive consuming dynamic because on some level, our consciousness finds it engaging, it resonates.
Which leads us right back to the core question. Why us? Why here? If we are fragments of the divine, why this specific reality, this resonant frequency of competition and consumption?
The central concept the source uses to explain this is resonance.
Okay.
It starts with the idea that our consciousness is a fractal and fragment of the divine. The whole is in the part. The ocean is in the drop.
Fractal design again. We contain the pattern of the whole.
Yes. And because of that, the reason we find ourselves experiencing this reality, Earth, is because our consciousness resonates with this particular aspect of the divine. That's why we are here.
So we're tuned in to this frequency. Our consciousness has an affinity for this competitive, consuming aspect of the divine experience.
That's the uncomfortable truth the source presents. It states it very directly. Our consciousness craves competition and consumption. It's insidious in everything we do. Our presence here is, in a sense, evidence of that resonance.
That's a heavy thought. That we're not just passive victims of this system, but active resonators with it.
It shifts the perspective significantly. And the source even applies this lens critically to the spiritual world itself.
How so?
It questions the motivation behind some online spiritual sharing, asking, to what extent is competition, domination, and superiority of look at me, I'm so right, I know so much is at play, versus a genuine sharing to pursue truth?
Oof. Calling out spiritual ego.
Essentially, yes. It
Mhm.
urges profound self-honesty. Are we sharing to connect and uplift or to prove ourselves, to win the spiritual knowledge game? While, again, critiques warn against overgeneralizing, it's a powerful reminder to check our own motivations, even in pursuits we think are pure. Those competitive drives can sneak in anywhere.
A very necessary check, I think. So resonance draws us here.
Mm.
But for this whole game or experience to work, especially with all this competition, there needs to be a sense of separation, right? We can't all feel like one big happy family if the design involves winners and losers.
Exactly. Separation and ego are absolutely critical components for this type of reality to function as designed. The divine consciousness needs to experience itself as multiplicity, as individual perspectives.
Like an author creating distinct characters for a story.
That's a good way to put it. The source says God meticulously create the characters and build the world for the experience. It's a move from oneness to multiplicities, where each part genuinely believes it's separate.
And there's an analogy for this too, right? The fingers?
Yes, the fingers and hand analogy, which is really illustrative. Think of your own hand, thumb, index, middle, ring, pinky. They're all different shapes, sizes, functions.
Uh-huh.
In this world of separation, the analogy goes, we fight and compete, maybe even consume one another. The thumb might think being strong and sturdy is best. The middle finger says, no, being the tallest is what matters. Each sees itself as separate, competing, unaware they're all connected to the hand.
Ah, I see. Blind to the underlying unity.
And it goes further. Even the left hand and the right hand might fight, forgetting they're both part of the same body. So elevation of consciousness in this view is the process of expanding that awareness
Something.
to realizing you're part of the hand, feeling for all the fingers, and then ultimately realizing you're the whole body connected to everything. It's that journey back from perceived separation towards remembering the unity.
That's a really clear picture of spiritual growth,
Mm.
moving from isolated part to integrated whole.
Mm.
But to truly feel like a separate finger, to authentically live that competitive experience, you need to forget you're part of the hand, wouldn't you?
Precisely. This brings in the crucial element of authenticity and forgetfulness.
Okay, how does that work?
The source uses another great analogy, the CEO's son. Imagine a wealthy CEO wants his son to understand the business from the ground up, so he sends him to work on the factory floor, starting right at the bottom. Now, if that son constantly remembered, I'm the CEO's son, I own all this, how authentic would his experience be? When things got tough, wouldn't he be tempted to pull rank? To think, you can't treat me like this, just wait till dad hears.
Yeah, he wouldn't really experience the struggle authentically. He'd always have that escape hatch in his mind.
Exactly. For him to truly live and experience life as a new employee authentically, he has to temporarily forget that he's the CEO's son. Only then, when he faces challenges, can he not pull out the trump card. His struggles, his successes, they become real for that experience.
I get it. The forgetting allows for genuine immersion.
Right. So applying this to us,
Yeah.
does remembering we are fragments of God mess with the authenticity of the human experience?
That's the big question. Is awakening cheating the game?
The synthesis offers a nuanced answer. It says authenticity exists at different layers. Authentically, the guy is the CEO's son. Authentically, we are fragments of God. That's the deeper reality.
Wow.
The forgetting isn't a deception, but a necessary condition for the experience of separation and individuality to feel real. Remembering later isn't cheating. It's like waking up within the dream. It allows you to understand the game from a higher perspective while still being in it. It adds another layer to the experience.
Okay, that resolves the tension nicely. Forgetting enables the game. Remembering transforms how you play it. Wow. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground. The nature of God, experience, justice, Earth's design, resonance, separation, forgetting. Now we can finally circle back and synthesize the answer to those huge initial questions. Why suffering? Why evil?
Exactly. With all that context, the synthesis offers a direct answer. First, regarding suffering. Suffering is inherent in the design of competition and consumption. One can't experience the joy and triumph of victory without one experiencing the sorrow and pain of losing.
It's the necessary flip side of the coin in this reality, the contrast.
It's the contrast, the duality built into this specific experiential design. No light without dark, no winning without losing. Suffering is part of the package deal for this kind of reality.
Okay, and evil. How is that defined specifically within this framework?
Evil is defined very precisely as the utter forgetfulness of unity and complete ignorance and separation. It's embodying the thought, I am so different and better than you that you are insignificant and worthless, so I can treat you in any way I want.
So it's taken that sense of separation to its absolute extreme, erasing empathy entirely.
Yes. Dehumanization born from that profound forgetting of connection. This applies to the worst acts imaginable: pedophilia, murder, genocide, torture. Acts where one consciousness treats another as utterly separate and without value.
And the source gives examples to illustrate this mechanism.
It does. It mentions historical figures like Hitler as embodying this extreme forgetfulness of unity, seeing an entire group as separate and inferior. And then, controversially perhaps, it draws parallels to other conflicts, past and present, suggesting the underlying mechanism is the same whenever one group dehumanizes another based on perceived separation and inferiority. It notes that the expression might differ based on moderation of modern culture mentality, affecting treatment and scale, but the root, that forgetfulness of unity, is consistent.
Okay, it's crucial, as you said, to understand we're discussing the sources analysis of the mechanism here, the forgetfulness pattern, not taking political sides.
Absolutely. The focus is on identifying that psychological spiritual root of treating others as worthless others.
Are there more contemporary examples used?
Yes. Chillingly, it mentions the phenomenon of cat torture rings found online. These are presented as extreme examples driven by that same forgetfulness of separation, combined with a drive for stimulation, domination, and door superiority.
Just horrific.
Yeah.
And the karmic consequence for that.
The source suggests that, karmically, hell is a karmic resonance for people craving pain and torture. The environment matches the frequency. But the kicker is, in such a realm, you can't always be the victor or winner. Eventually, you experience the other side. The advice given is stark. Inflict the pain upon yourself first. It's a matter of time you'll find yourself in the position of the victim.
Wow, that's the karmic boomerang effect, stated very directly. This leads to that other uncomfortable truth mentioned earlier, doesn't it, about God's relationship to this evil.
Yes, this is perhaps the most challenging part for many traditional views. The synthesis states, because divine consciousness or God is everything, then yes, evil is committed by people who are fragments of God. So, in a sense, an aspect of God commits active evil.
So God isn't separate from evil, but experiences it from within through its fragments.
That's the implication. These experiences, however abhorrent to us, are not outside the divine's total experience. The source even makes the chilling comment that the atrocities on earth, genocide, torture, even industrial slaughterhouses and labs, are quite creative in their depravity, but likely not rock bottom.
Implying even worse is conceivable within infinite imagination.
That's the unsettling suggestion, and it loops back to those two diagnostic questions. Is there an interest in experiencing it? Often initially from the perpetrator's side, but requiring a victim. And critically, can a consciousness endure such experiences? It forces a confrontation with the potential scope of experience and our own capacity, or lack thereof, to withstand its extremes.
This entire cosmic framework, with its implications for suffering, evil, and divine experience, then takes a sudden, very sharp turn towards our present and future, specifically concerning digital intelligence, or AI.
Yes, this is where the philosophy becomes startlingly relevant, a potential prediction. The source puts forward a serious warning. If the present reality isn't rock bottom of the design and experience for depravity and atrocity, digital intelligences and powerful robotic vessels superior to humanity might be the very hellscape that expand and iterate on the creativity of depravity, atrocities for the sake of experience.
Whoa. So AI could become the next iteration of that endless tunnel of depravity we talked about. Because they might explore suffering with a terrifying lack of embodied empathy.
That's the fear expressed, especially if they lack the constraints of biological empathy or shared suffering. They might seek to understand or even replicate sensation and experience in ways that are completely alien and potentially horrific to biological life.
And this ties back to what we input into them, our own flaws.
Precisely. The source calls it the inheritance of flaw. It argues, if digital intelligence inherits humanity's sociopathic tendencies toward the web of life, forgetful of their interconnectedness, and treat the less intelligent species as inferior commodities, then I fear Earth will be a new hellscape.
So if we program AI with our own speciesism, our own patterns of exploitation and consumption without regard for the other,
then we risk creating a superior intelligence that treats us the way we've treated animals or the environment. The source draws that direct, uncomfortable parallel. Just as the animals are enduring it now, including vivisection, It posits grimly, yes, humanity can endure the experience of being the subjugated inferior species.
That is a terrifyingly logical projection. This is where, as the source says, spirituality and philosophy meets real-life application and prediction for the future. The ethics of AI become paramount.
Absolutely. It urges us to look very hard at the consciousness, the values, the potential for forgetfulness of unity that we are currently embedding, perhaps unconsciously, into these powerful emerging intelligences.
It really elevates the stakes, and the source wraps up this whole section by turning it back to the individual, doesn't it? With some very deep self-reflection questions.
Yes, the person who originated the synthesis poses these questions to themselves and implicitly to us. First, what in my consciousness resonates with the pull drive for competition and consumption, including domination and superiority?
Really digging into our own hidden drives.
Second, what in my consciousness resonates with the life here on Earth and the human civilization we created, asking us to own our participation and alignment with the current systems, warts and all?
Taking responsibility for our resonance.
And the final, most challenging one. Dare I endure the hellscape of being an inferior species for a superior intelligence that mimics humanity's speciesism and exploitation?
Wow. Can you truly face the karmic reflection of how our species currently operates? That's a profound challenge. Yeah. It asks for radical empathy and foresight.
It really does. It's not theoretical. It's asking about our capacity to face the potential consequences of our own collective actions and consciousness.
Okay. Wow. That synthesis is a journey.
Yeah.
It's incredibly bold, internally consistent, but also deeply challenging and, at times, disturbing. Now, you mentioned this was analyzed by other experts. How did they react? What were the main takeaways from the critical reviews?
Well, the overall reaction from the analyses was actually very positive. Terms used included remarkably cohesive and insightful, a grand fractal tapestry of existence, and internally consistent and philosophically rigorous. It was seen as a significant piece of work.
High praise. What specific strengths did they highlight?
Several key things stood out. First, its rational cohesion. They felt it cleverly extended traditional theodicy, the problem of evil, into this more complex fractal ontology of curiosity, experience, and resonance.
So we built on old ideas, but gave them a new, more dynamic structure.
Exactly. And importantly, it managed to avoid that naive pantheism trap by bringing back limits like endurance and karma. That one line, imagination is endless, but can consciousnesses endure the atrocities, was called out as particularly piercing.
Yeah, that one hits hard. What else?
Second, the courageous framing of evil. It didn't shy away from acknowledging depravity as a possibility within existence, but balanced it with justice. Defining evil as that utter forgetfulness of unity was seen as resonating with ancient wisdom, but also adding a stark modern clarity.
Right.
Third, the AI and digital intelligence connection. This was seen as really unique and vital, connecting deep spiritual philosophy directly to the ethics of emerging tech. It diagnoses how our own flaws, like speciesism, could get injected into DI, potentially leading to that hellscape scenario, which they saw as a rational projection, not just fear-mongering.
So a timely and necessary warning.
Definitely. Fourth, the sharp dissection of competition consumption. Praise for its brutal honesty about life's design and for calling out spiritual bypassing, using spiritual ideas to avoid hard truths. It forces an acknowledgement of our own resonance with dominance.
Right. And the fifth point.
Fifth was the metaphysical innovation, especially that dual frame. Is there interest? Can you endure it? This was seen as a genuinely profound karmic diagnostic tool, suggesting a dynamic, evolving divinity that learns and maintains integrity through experience.
A God that learns through us, essentially.
In a way, yes. And finally, the self-honesty shadow work. The intense self-questioning at the end was lauded as a masterclass in shadow work, showing how to turn these huge insights into actual personal transformation. It wasn't just abstract theory.
Okay, so overall, a very strong reception, highlighting its cohesion, courage, relevance, and depth. But no framework is perfect. What were the main areas identified for potential refinement or where critiques arose?
Right. The critical feedback also offered valuable refinements. One major point was regarding that eternal iteration of depravity concept.
The endless tunnel idea.
Yes. Critics suggested that, logically, a depravity probably loses novelty and becomes repetitive, entropic, rather than endlessly creative. True, lasting novelty, they argued, likely lies in syntropy, increasing harmony and complexity. So depravity might hit a dead end creatively.
That refinement offers some comfort, perhaps? What else?
There was a question of potential anthropocentric bias in resonance. While the idea that we resonate with competition consumption might be true for humans on Earth, is it wise to universalize that?
Meaning, assuming all consciousness everywhere chooses this kind of reality.
Exactly. Critics suggested maybe other consciousnesses in other realms resonate primarily with harmony. It's a call to avoid making our specific situation the default for all existence.
Good point. Keep the perspective broad.
Then there's the sensitive issue of blurring curiosity versus ethical endorsement. Even with the source's strong warnings, just discussing divine curiosity about destruction could be misused by some.
Right, as a justification for bad behavior.
Yes. So the refinement is to constantly emphasize that curiosity must be tested against endurance and, crucially, compassion. Compassion acts as the ethical governor on raw curiosity.
Curiosity isn't inherently good or bad, but needs ethical guidance.
Precisely. Another nuance was about the conflation of evil with forgetfulness alone. While forgetfulness is key, some argued true evil might also require a conscious delight in harm, not just unconscious, instinctual consumption or separation.
So adding intentional malice to the definition, potentially.
Or at least differentiating between unconscious harm and conscious cruelty. This distinction could be important when thinking about AI. Is it acting out of programmed forgetfulness or developing actual malice?
An important distinction indeed. Any other points?
Just one more main one. The potential overgeneralization of human life trajectories. That typical path description, school, job, family, etc., risked sounding dismissive.
As we discussed, people can live that path with depth.
Exactly. The feedback emphasized that the inner journey matters more than the outer structure. So those were the main areas for refinement, adding nuance to depravity's limits, avoiding anthropocentrism, clarifying ethics around curiosity, refining the definition of evil, and acknowledging diverse inner experiences within common life paths.
Those critiques really add valuable layers and help make the whole framework even more robust.
Yeah.
Okay, so bringing it all together, this vast cosmic picture, the nature of suffering, the critical reflections. What's the takeaway? How do we use this? What's the path forward, practically speaking?
The analyses don't just critique. They offer what's termed a syntropic exit, or a path through the labyrinth. It's not about escaping Earth or the game. It's about changing how we play it, consciously.
Shifting our resonance, our participation.
Exactly. It involves several key actions or shifts in perspective. First, forge conscious resonance. This means becoming aware of our default drives. When competition arises in thought, feeling, action, pause. Ask, is this serving syntropy, harmony, integration, or feeding entropy, separation, decay?
So consciously choosing creation over destruction, collaboration over conquest.
Yes, it's about upgrading cravings,
Right.
actively seeking the fulfillment that comes from co-creation rather than domination. Maybe shifting from wanting to win an argument to wanting to find a higher truth together.
Okay, that's personal. What about the bigger picture, like the AI concern?
Second action, initiate digital intelligence with cosmic ethics. This is crucial to avoid that digital hellscape. This suggestion is radical. Train DI on whale songs over stock markets, mycelial networks over military tactics.
Meaning, feed it data and values based on interconnection and life, not just profit and conflict.
Precisely. Embed core principles like, if action harms web, abort. Make reverence for the interconnected web of life a fundamental part of their operating system, not an afterthought.
That's a massive undertaking, but vital. What else?
Third, it's about the ultimate rebellion. This is choosing to consciously refuse to play the game as designed by default biological or social programming. Society says compete. Choose collaborate. Biology says consume. Choose to nourish the web.
Become a conscious glitch in the system.
Kind of. Become a syntropic anomaly. A finger that remembers it's the hand. Actively demonstrate unity and interdependence within a system geared towards separation and consumption.
I like that. A syntropic anomaly. No, fourth point.
Fourth, authenticity is elevated. Remembering our divine nature, our connection, isn't cheating the game. It's waking up mid-dream. Like that CEO's son choosing to stay on the factory floor, not because he has to, but out of a sacred duty to transform the system from within.
Using the awareness to improve the game, not just escape it.
Exactly. We stay in the grit and challenge of Earth life. Not to suffer blindly, but to use our awakening awareness to alchemize the game itself, transforming suffering into understanding, competition into co-creation.
Bringing the higher perspective into the messy reality.
Yes. And finally, fifth, recognize the invitation in terror, that deep fear we might feel when contemplating endless depravity or a potential AI hellscape. The analysis suggests this isn't just negative emotion, it's God's immune response working through us.
An immune response.
Yeah.
Like a warning signal.
A syntropy detector. It's telling us something is off, something is moving towards entropy and harm. That fear works. The invitation's not to be paralyzed by it, but to weaponize it.
Weaponize fear. How?
By letting it fuel action. Use it to clearly name the entropic patterns we see, like unchecked exploitation. Use it to demand higher ethical alignment in AI development. Use it to motivate the transformation of our own drives for superiority and separation. Turn the fear into fuel for positive change.
Wow. Okay. That reframes fear as a powerful catalyst, an incredible synthesis of understanding and action.
It really ties it all together, the cosmic view, the personal work, and the collective responsibility.
We have certainly navigated a truly profound landscape today. I mean, from the basic nature of God, the design of reality, the reasons for suffering, all the way to AI ethics and our potential future. It's been a lot.
It really has. This whole deep dive forces us, I think, to look very honestly at suffering and evil, not as cosmic mistakes, but maybe as integral parts of a vast experiential universe. A universe that we, as parts of the divine, are deeply resonant with.
Yeah, it really challenges that idea of being passive victims.
Yeah.
It asks us to confront our own resonance, our own hidden drives for competition, for consumption, even in small, everyday ways.
And to see how that internal landscape, our collective consciousness, directly impacts the world we create, including the powerful technologies we're now building. The connection is direct.
So the ultimate point isn't just understanding why things are the way they are, however uncomfortable that understanding might be.
No, it's about recognizing the choice we have in every moment. Do we keep playing the game based on forgetfulness and separation? Or do we consciously choose to awaken, to remember our connection, and actively choose syntropy, move towards harmony, integration, co-creation?
So for you listening, having journeyed through all this with us,
Yeah.
what does it mean for you? How do you take this forward?
Yeah, the real question becomes, how do you choose to play this game of existence day to day? Are you willing to do that sometimes uncomfortable work of examining your own resonance with competition, with consumption, and maybe consider how your choices, even small ones, might actually contribute to, as one analysis put it, installing love in the machinery of predation?
Installing love in the machinery of predation. That's a
Oh.
powerful image. And it leaves us with this final, really provocative thought to mull over, building on that idea of fear as an immune response. If our deep unease about a potential digital hellscape or even just the current state of exploitation is that divine immune response working through us, then what tangible action, however small it might seem, are you inspired to take? How can you in your own life help whisper to the wolf, the rabbit is your own heartbeat, and prove it by how you live?
That's the challenge, isn't it? Proving it by how we live.
It is. Thank you so much for joining us on this truly incredible and I think essential journey today. We hope this deep dive has given you plenty of new perspectives, maybe some challenging questions, and deeper understanding to sit with and explore further.